Bling.
Bling bling. Hey everybody. This is Howard Jacobson with another Wellcast from WellStart Health, and I'm joined by Coach Extraordinaire Sarah Bofinger. Hey.
Hey!
So yes, Sarah walks softly and makes lots of noise with her medals. So let's see
Bling
them.
bling.
So hold them up so we
So,
can see them.
so they all look the same. So this basically says USMS Summer Nationals, Mission Viejo, California. And what's great is they're all gold. And I wanted gold medals. Who would have thought? I didn't know what they would look like. And now I have these like amazing, and they're heavy too. Like they're pretty thick, which is amazing. So it's like, these are great.
Awesome. So I want to talk about your experience. You went down to nationals and you came back with a bunch of medals.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the word that I wanted to like really focus on, and we haven't talked about this in advance, so let me know if this is cool, is like fun. And let me explain why I want to talk about fun, and hear all about your lessons. And you had some great races, you had some races that you thought you could have done better in, you had some learnings, but like I've been coaching people who like they can feel that there's changes to be made. Like for the first time, they're feeling empowered. Like, oh, I can really do this. Do you know that stage? Like of in the
Yes.
Well Start journey, we're like, oh, okay, and it's almost a little bit scary. But it also feels like, all right, I'm at the bottom of the mountain and I like every step looks hard. Like, all right, like I can do it. Before it was like, I can't really do this. I've never done it before. But now all of a sudden, all right, this is getting real, this is serious, and I can start to control what I eat, and I can start moving more. And then this thing sets in like, oh, like what have I signed up for? This this is like now a life of arduous work and deprivation. And yet it'll get me these results at the other end. Presumably, it'll get me to lose weight. I can reverse my disease. I can feel better. But it's like it's not it doesn't seem like fun. And so what I wanted to kind of frame your experience and your whole journey in terms of like this is fun for you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I'll say like most of my journey, like, coming out and announcing that I wanted to train for the Olympics and things like that, like I started to not have fun. And I was like, oh, like I mean, just like you were describing, like somebody that wants to lose weight, right? Like it doesn't feel like it could be fun, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this really uncomfortable thing that I'm not comfortable with right now. How can I make it fun? And so what I have learned like through my own journey going up to this race was that the more that I can relax and the more that I can just like enjoy the moment of just like having this experience, right? Because like I've never done a long course national championships before. I've never been in this part of California. And so, when I looked at those things versus like, and I mean, I did have some really big goals going into this meet, and maybe I didn't get to them, but like for once, this meet, like I allowed myself to really focus on having fun, even when it didn't feel good. Like the first day I like went out on a personal best time. I had never medaled in the 50 free before. And like, I was just like in awe, right? Like I was having so much fun. I was having so much fun that like the later that day, I was like, oh, I want to walk to Bikram and I want to do all these things. So then the next event, like I was tired, but like even during the event, I was still having fun. Like I was like, okay, you know what? I'm here. Like, I mean, it really takes some like cognitive, like really like focus of like, okay, like what, like how else can I look at this, right? Because if you like focus on like what you don't like if I focus on like, oh my gosh, right now I feel like I'm gonna puke in the pool, I'm not gonna have fun as if like, oh my gosh, Sarah, ooh, I've never had this feeling before. Okay, like this means like, like there's something to learn here and something to grow. And this wasn't always how I looked at my races. Like I was always like, very serious, like, oh, I didn't do it. And I would really beat myself up. But like this time, just by being here and experiencing it, it allowed for me to like bounce back and just like get a amazing 4 medals in 4 days, like it allowed for a better experience for me, even though like some of the time like it wasn't very fun, right? But like I made it fun. Like I chose that experience, and so that's how I made it fun.
And can you remember back in the day, maybe late teens or 20s, when you were like overtly like looking for fun, like partying?
Yeah, like
Right. Like,
well,
can you compare this, like this side of that mountain to, like, because most people, like, a lot of people come into this, I think of fun as eating all the foods that I can't eat anymore. Like the fun's all gone. Do you remember
yeah.
what it was like when you were like chasing fun versus what you're
Well,
doing now?
I guess it would be similar to even chasing happiness, right? Like, I mean, even like when I was looking for either jobs or what I wanted to do, or, even like you said, like going out and partying, like I needed to, one, like have something outside myself to allow that, which now like when I'm looking at fun, I don't need anything outside of me. I didn't need these medals to have fun, like I could have fun without the medals, without the times. Like I could just have it within me. And so I think that's the difference between the past me and the me now, is that like before, like I always felt like I either needed that alcoholic drink or that, that food, or, or that person, or, whatever it was that I was chasing. Now I can just look at it and just be so grateful for my journey, where I am now, and how I have the opportunity to make it fun. Like we all do, but like it's just training that tool, that mindset of, okay, it is like but it's not like something that you can just, like, oh man, that was fun, and then the next day maybe it wasn't fun. Like you constantly have to really be conscious of what you're thinking about, how you're thinking about it, and then it just starts to become a little more natural. And that's what this race was for me. It was like, okay, Sarah, like you don't have to beat yourself up. Maybe you didn't get that time you wanted, but you know what? You had fun doing it, and you got to hang out with a bunch of cool people, and it's like, okay, like it's a different way that I'm looking at myself and looking at the outcome versus before, when it was like almost like I needed this to be able to have fun, versus now, like I don't need anything to have fun. I can literally just like I'm having fun right now, talking to you.
Imagine that. Um, So I just clicked something that made me go away. So now I'm trying to figure out how to add me back in. Oh, there I am. I'm tiny now. Can you hold out your
See,
hand?
we're having fun.
You can hold out your hand. And
Here you go.
I'm mini me.
Yeah.
I look like him too, do I? I don't know.
You do.
Well, what I'm getting from this is, oh, there I am. It's like before, and this is like most of us have like this gumball machine attitude towards life, right? Like you put in your quarter, you want the gumball to come out. It's that, like I have expectations. I'm going to go out drinking tonight, and here's the fun I'm going to have. Here's the experience I'm going to have. I'm going to, like, it's like demands on the universe. And it sounds like when you started training, you were bringing a little bit, some of that attitude with you. Like, it's going to be hard, but I've got to have a good race here, or I've got to be consistently. And you'd get down when you didn't. At a certain point, you made this shift, like, it's all grist for my growth.
Yeah.
And I get to decide in the moment how this is great, as opposed to having this preconceived standard that life in the universe had to meet in order for me to be okay.
Yeah, totally. And I want to share like another thing that happened while I was here that maybe can like all like I mean it was hard for me, but at the same time like being able to shift my perspective. So, like in this journey I've burned a lot of my life to the ground. Credit, money, things that are very important to people. I've had to allow and really trust in myself and in the universe that it's all going to work out. And so when I got here, I really thought that I was going to have a rental car. I was going to go visit all these people, and everything. And when I got here, I basically was denied a rental car. And so like I literally had to sit and be like, you know what, this is my experience and I'm going to own it that I created this. And oh my gosh, now I get to go on foot. So instead of like beating myself up like I normally would about why did I do this? Why did I burn everything to the ground? Like I looked at it as like another opportunity to not only look at myself and what I was doing here, but also like being able to experience life in a different way. Like by like who like goes out and walks and carries their groceries and comes back and still does a race. I mean, like we rely so much on the outside of like, we need a car, we need this, we need that. And like the way that I'm living, like I'm learning that I don't need any of it. Like literally, if I have like this amazing attitude on the inside, I can just have the most fun. And like, it's just been so amazing, like to be like walking, like, then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get stronger by like walking like 4 miles a day and racing, and then it's like, oh, I found a Bikram studio and oh, I found like grocery stores, like really close, so when I first started, I had all these expectations, right? Of like, oh, I'm going to drive around, I'm going to do all this stuff. It's going to be really great. But then it was like, you know what? Like, this is what I've been training for. Like, I literally live my life where I'm walking to the next workout. I'm pushing myself to the workout. I'm walking back home. Like, this is it, and it just like, usually I would have like literally just beat myself up, but this time I had such a blast and it's been such an amazing experience. Like I feel stronger, I feel excited, and it's like, you know what? I really don't need anything to make me feel good. And like that was like what a car or money or, even fun or happiness was for me, was like I needed something else outside of myself to allow me to feel that way. And this experience was like, oh my gosh, like who does that? Like how grateful am I that I can walk 2 miles to a workout or to a grocery store? Like not many people get to do that, And so instead of looking at it like it was this horrible thing, like it was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so grateful that I literally get to hunt for my food. Like, no, like literally, like I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. Like I want groceries. Like I have to now go out and do it, And I mean, like there were times when we would Uber and stuff, but like I wanted to make my experience. And that's what this whole life is about, right? It's just like really like owning your experience. So if you're like in this position where you're like, man, like I wish that I could walk 2 miles. I mean, what can you do now that's 1% better than the previous moment?
And so to look at these obstacles that pop up, first of all, the unexpected ones, you're now looking for like, where's the gift in this?
Yeah, and I had to really, look, and it brought up a lot of triggers. And what I'm learning is that like when things bring up triggers,
like
it's
what?
allowing you to release it, like triggers of like unworthiness. Like it really like just like it was just like, oh my gosh, Sarah, like why did you do this? Like, but it's like I've been having so much fun, but it's like, why did you mess up your credit, or why did you,
So
not have enough? Or
that's why they didn't give you the rentals. Like they didn't.
Well, so I don't use a bank card and Mike doesn't have a license. So basically, and to get a rental car, you need a license and a bank card to match together. So I have a license, but I don't have a bank card. And then when we would try like the car shares and stuff, like they would look at my credit and they were like, ooh, we don't want to give this to her, So then it was like, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to have this. And I like just looked at it in like a totally different way than I would have before. Because I mean, it allowed some triggers to show up, but it also was like, Sarah, this isn't the outcome. Like, yeah, this is what it's been, but this isn't final. Like, even if you look at like maybe you're not exercising right now and you're looking at your life like this is final. I'm never going to lose weight. I'm never going to be able to get out of this situation. But if you just look at it like, oh my gosh, like, look what I did to myself. Like, wow, like now I get to choose what I want to do, you know? And it's like, I'm starting over. Like now I like know what I want to do. I'm a swimmer. I'm a health coach. I love helping people. And now that I have this path of really finding myself, like all these things can be corrected, you know? And like, that's what I was able to look at this time, was not looking at it as like, oh my gosh, Sarah, you silly girl. Like, what were you doing? You know, but then it's like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for that. Like, thank you so that I can look at my experience. Like, because maybe if I had a car, I would have driven all over the world. I wouldn't have been, oh, I'm in California. Let me go everywhere and see everyone. And I wouldn't have focused on my race. And, you know, it's like all these things, like when we can look at what it's trying to show us, you know. And for me, it was just like, you chose this journey. Like it wasn't that it was going to be easy, right? Like this journey of letting everything go and training for the Olympics isn't some like walk in the park, right? Like and I chose that. Like I chose this journey, and I can accept everything that I've created. And when I looked at it like that, it was just like, it was so beautiful. Like I'm stronger, you know, and I'm grateful that I experienced this, and I can look at this and be like, like in a year, right? Like maybe in a year, then I'm like, oh my gosh, can you imagine like what that did for me? You know, what that opened up for me.
Right. And you get to say, like, I want this to change. Right. Like this was a beautiful experience,
Exactly.
and I want to rebuild my credit. I want to, I have this new start every moment where, and so like one of the genres I've gotten into recently is like rock and roll musicians autobiographies, because most of them were like dirt poor. Like it seems like, you or just lots of people that we consider very, very successful, like when you look back, not even that far, they were, really down. So I'm listening now to Bruce Springsteen read his autobiography, Born to Run, and he's talking about getting his first guitar. And he was like 6 years old or something, or 8 years old. He just heard Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he was transfixed like everyone else. And he's like, "Babe, please." They don't have money to buy a guitar, so they rent a guitar. And he goes and takes lessons, and he says, "This was too effing hard. I just quit." Right? And you're like,
Yeah.
how many people do I know? Like, how many things did I quit? And like, if you didn't realize you were reading Bruce Springsteen's autobiography, you could be like, well, that was a sad little story.
Yeah, totally. But a lot of times, like, people aren't, talking about the struggle or, what they're going through. Like, you just read about it, right? Like, after all of a sudden, it just seems like they went from here to here, and it's just like, well, what happened?
Right.
Like,
Well,
how did they do it?
it's like in 3 years, you're a millionaire, and then you write this book about your journey and your struggles, but you don't actually mention that you're struggling financially until you're not. And
Yeah.
but here you are saying, "Look, like I'm in it.
Yeah.
I didn't make the best of it, like, but I made good of it." Right? And something lit in me that's like, I can do this differently if I choose to.
Exactly. And like by sharing my experiences, one, maybe I'm helping someone else out there that is doing this all alone, right? And they're like, there's this girl out there that's training for the Olympics, and she's had no idea and burned her life to the ground, but she's smiling and having a blast, And maybe that encourages them to, look at their life differently, because that's all it is. It's like, when we look at ourselves as, different. Oh, look, this is me, Bo.
Oh.
He's so cool. Yeah, but when we look at our experiences, in a different way each moment, we get this opportunity to try again, right? And try a little differently and see how that works.
Yeah, it just made me think of this really interesting paradox that I'll throw it out to you to see what you think of it. But the more, and I see this in myself, and I think I see it in you and Josh and Kevin and Ron and Carol and everyone else, but also in the people who go through the Well Start program. Oh, look at that puppy.
I know. Isn't he cute?
Whoa.
Hello. Meebo. Meebo.
Oh. That the more we start to learn how to trust and rely on ourselves, the more we can trust the universe. And it seems like it should kind of be like a seesaw. Like I'm going to really focus on myself because the universe is this dangerous, scary place and I'm all I have. Or I'm going to give myself to the universe because I don't have what it takes. But it's almost like the more we can stand on our own ground and know that we can overcome things, the more we can let go the things that we can't control and let the universe provide them for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, getting in alignment with your truest self. Because when you're in alignment with your truest self, you're in alignment with the universe. And then you have to receive what your blessings are because you're who you are. Like if you're living in your truth, you're helping people along the way. That's ultimately what we're all here to do, is help each other, help ourselves, and when we help ourselves, we can help each other. And so what I found, like in my own journey, is that the more that I really focused on myself, I was able to help more people along the way. And it just made it really easy. Like instead of like, and a lot of people that come to WellStart, it's like a lot of them are focusing on everyone else. And so then they put themselves last and they don't realize that, by being able to help yourself and using these tools, like you would be able to help your family members and your peers a lot easier because you've already done it. You've already done the work. You've already done everything that you need for yourself. And so now it's just easy to give. Like it's easy to be able to do that because you've already experienced it in yourself.
I love that. So I sort of like ran this conversations, but I want to make sure we have room for you to share whatever else you want to share about your amazing week in California.
So let's see what else. So, so Thursday went really well. Friday was a really great lesson that I didn't get a best time, but I still learned a bunch of things. The next day, I was like, I added even more time and also like there were a few moments where I felt a little disappointed in myself, but I also was just holding on to that gratitude. Like, in those moments of like struggle and feeling like it's really hard, like it's just so important to find gratitude because then the next day I swam my fastest time. I did really well. And I just like was able to trust that whatever was supposed to happen would happen, because what I'm learning along with this is like, whatever you're supposed to do, you're going to do it, but you have to let go. You have to allow not only yourself to be relaxed, but also allow the blessing to come to you. And I was so focused even this meet on like, okay, I want to get my Olympic trial cuts. I want to win every race. I want people to know who I am. And none of that happened. But I was totally okay with it because it's like I found this other outlet that's like, you know what? Like I got gold medals. I didn't have to get first place to get gold medals. They were all gold, And I swam like two of my fastest times, which I just had gotten fast times like 3 weeks ago. And it's in a 50, one length. I was able to cut more time in one length than I was in the other ones that were way longer, So it just like allowed me to see a bunch of things. I got to meet a bunch of people out here in the community. We did some Bikram classes. We checked out different stores. Like I was able to just relax, and it was a really great experience for me, and also to look forward and see like what else is new, because I'm looking at a new avenue now with my Olympic journey, because looking at this, you know, and not getting the trial cuts and things, and not being able to get the even to qualify for some of the meets that, you know, a lot of people are in. And so actually in 2016, I had looked at Paralympics, which, you know, Paralympics are people that either you were born a certain way or you are missing limbs, you know. And in 2016, like people had told me that I could probably qualify for that, but like I was not really interested, because I was more about like, basically I wanted to overcome this, and I wanted to be this person that overcame it, and then poof, here I am, you know. But now I'm like looking at this and like, what if like I'm supposed to embrace it? Like, what if like my hip dysplasia, like maybe there are some pieces that are holding me back, and maybe I should compete against my own other people that were born, you know, a certain way and things like that. So now I'm actually going to be focusing on Paralympics, and I found a coach in Maryland, and I'm getting my medical records, and I'm going to see if like you know, because my times in Paralympics are fast. Like, I mean, I'm already qualifying like in Paralympics, and instead of looking before, like, you know, instead of looking at this as a horrible thing, like I don't want to do Paralympics, but like now I'm embracing like who I am, and I'm gonna try out this. So that's kind of where I'm going next, is that I'm going to get nationally and internationally classified and do some pretty big meets and get the qualifying times and do Paralympics now.
Awesome. I just want to point out like one thing that I'm noticing is, you know, you're a very relentlessly positive person, and there are ways to do that that I think are very dangerous, right? Like ignoring the disappointment. And like you constantly said, like, I felt the shame, I felt the disappointment, and then I
Yeah,
chose gratitude. Like, I just want to highlight the importance of not bypassing the negativity, but being big enough and strong enough to bring it in, because
yeah.
it's all those times in the past when we couldn't handle those negative things that led us astray.
Totally. And being able to have gratitude for that, because like when those things that are coming up, like me being able to sit with that and know that that doesn't serve me anymore, like that's not me anymore, you know, like, and I can acknowledge that, and that allows for more resistance to be released, more like any conditioning that I have built up in myself to now be released, and I can start really truly living in my truest self, and like whatever that is for me. And we all have that ability, but it's like, you know, when we've thought a certain way, or we've done things a certain way, and we've conditioned ourselves a certain way, and if we never give ourselves the ability to look at this in a different way and be able to change it, you know, we're always going to be in that stuck pattern of like, oh, you know, here I am, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, you know, and da da da. And like, I mean, even with, you know, I've been like, hey, I'm training for the Olympics, you know, but then like I had to look at this, like this meet was basically for me to like look at what's next, because the Olympics is a year away. So it's like, okay, like realistically, like, what am I looking at here, you know? And I don't even think I have meets that I can even get into that are, you know, the meets are basically, there's way smaller meets now for me to qualify, and I'm still pretty far away, you know? And it's like, but I have this ability where I was born with something that gives me this advantage to actually be in something else that I never thought, like I was trying to ignore because I didn't want that to be me. But like yesterday I saw this little girl that was in a wheelchair, And she reminded me of myself. And I asked the mom, I was like, does she swim? Because, she was like doing all this stuff on ground, but she couldn't walk, but it was like, she was like, just like swimming on land. And she was like, oh my gosh, when you mentioned swimming, like she is like all on it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it was just like reminded me that like, if my parents decided not to do the surgery, that could have been me. And like what a beautiful thing to see this girl as like this beautiful mermaid, like swimming on the grass, and it just like brought me so much gratitude that, there's a lot of people out there that maybe they have disabilities and they've never been able to acknowledge them or even overcome them. And so like now I have this beautiful platform where I have overcome my disability, but I also still may have this thing that I was born with. And maybe now I get to share it this way, and I never looked at it like that because I was so focused on like, okay, I gotta be like everyone else, but maybe I'm not like everyone else. And now I get to share that in a different way. So
I just had this image of you inventing this prosthetic mermaid's tail for paraplegics to become incredible swimmers.
Yes, I could totally, yeah, like it's like a big, and it would look like a tail, like a pink and green and purple and blue tail that's just like allows people to, be their fullest self, So I'm really excited to see like, what happens now, because like now this is exciting. Like before it felt really complicated to even think about it. But now it's like when I look at like, and it's crazy like how all of this happened within 24 hours. Like literally last night I was just like, okay, how do I want to look at this? And then I look at the Paralympics and I'm like, I have no idea. I start emailing people, emailing this coach that I had met 3 weeks ago. And it's like, everyone's like, okay, like this coach doesn't really charge a lot. And then they're like, this is the next step. And then I call the hospital to get the records. And then it's like, everything is like flowing, right? And so like, that's what happens when you're in flow. It's like, I've put in the work. Like I've been training for like 9 years. I was overweight. I've been literally diligent for 9 years. And it's like, sometimes you look and you don't see, a manifestation, right? You don't see like what has happened, but you have to look at, there is so many things that have happened. And it's like when you can recognize that in these parts of like, then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, wow. Like, okay, like this is the next step. Cool.
Yeah, a friend of mine shared this beautiful image on Facebook yesterday of a plant with this really healthy, extensive root system, but just one shoot coming up and the plant above ground, and the plant's going, why am I growing so slowly?
Yeah. And I mean, and we can compare ourselves to, trees, right? Like, I mean, maybe like one tree is getting watered more than another one, but that doesn't mean that tree can't still get the same outcome, or maybe even a different outcome that's for that tree, and that's kind of like how I've had to look at myself. Because even in swimming, right, like I've created a body that I've never had before. I've never felt comfortable in a two-piece, and now I can see my abs and all these great things, right? And I've got swimmers that are like bigger than me, they don't have any definition, beating me, right? And like that could be like really like discouraging, because it's like, wait, like I did all this work, but yet these people are still faster than me and they look nothing like me. And it's like, okay, that's cool, right? Because in swimming, like, it's not really necessary that much, but maybe for me it is, because if I was overweight, I couldn't swim like I do now, So like the same thing with that tree, like maybe one tree was growing faster and that's what that tree needed, but then this other tree had to do like a different route to get where it needed to be in the moment.
Yeah. I'm reminded of one of Josh's favorite quotes from the interview I did with Chris Voss, who wrote a book on negotiation. And the quote is, "Don't be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the whole point of life, because you can have one outcome, or one destination, right? But that destination could totally change into something even more beautiful for yourself.
All right. Well, I feel like we squeezed the orange.
We did,
Yeah.
yeah.
And since we're doing this on a weekly basis, I want to make sure we always have something to talk about next week.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have tons of things because now that my what's happening and just like transitioning to Paralympics, and this was a masters competition, so I'm going to be changing different competitions and learning a bunch of things along the way. So I know that I'm going to have a ton of things. I'm going to be in Maryland next Tuesday, so by a whole week will go by, something new will
Uh,
spark and
and
share.
and you also got to meet Wellstar All Star Elizabeth.
I did, yeah. I
I
mean,
saw
and
the
oh my
photos.
gosh. And she gave me this bracelet that said she believed she could, so she did.
Oh,
How amazing is that? We went to the beach because I said, I was like, all I want to do is go to the beach and put my toes in. And the water was so cold that that's all I did was just like, well, I was like, all we need to do is get selfies by the beach, right? And that's like totally like, and it's funny because like maybe past me would have been like, I have to jump in, I need this whole experience. And me, I'm just like, hey, I just want to like see the water, take a picture, put my toe in, I'm good. And then we got to eat at Cafe Gratitude and just like have an experience, there. And it was really amazing to meet her in person and just like see her growth from coaching and that. So it was really amazing. Yeah. And then I got to meet an Olympian too, Anthony Irvin, who is like 35 and is training for the 2020 Olympics, but he's a 3-time Olympian. He was swimming at the Masters, and it's like amazing how many like all-star people come out to these meets and you get to watch them swim, and it's like, wow, like this is really like fascinating, like just the different types of people, the different walks of life we all have, and we all have different but same goals, right? But it makes it fun to keep going and to know that like it doesn't have to look the way that you thought it is. All you have to do is try and see what happens.
all right, right. Well, let's leave everyone with that. We don't know where Sarah doesn't know where her journey's taking her. None
I
of
don't
us.
know, but I got gold medals.
Yeah, none of us knows, but it's a heck of a lot more rich and rewarding and joyful to just keep moving.
Totally.
All right.
And you can sign up for Well Start and be a part of all these great conversations and people, and it's
Yeah.
awesome. So
I love that you did that. I always forget to like sell the thing that we're here to sell.
but I mean, it's just so amazing. Like, I can't not do it because it's just like, I mean, even for me, being a coach is just the most amazing thing. And I want more people to experience joy and fun and being a part of community. And like, we're all in this together. So why not join up and be a part of this together?
Yeah. If you join up, you will be interacting with Sarah.
Yes.
So, so well
Before
started.
I'm on TV, so just get in while it's good.
Right. Maybe you can prototype one of her mermaid tails.
Exactly.
All right, Sarah. Thank you so much for everything, for taking the time, for going into the good, the bad, the ugly, and the transcendent. And I'll talk to you again next week.
Yes. See you all next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.